I hadn't heard her voice in over a year. Not a message, not a call, just silence. Until last night. There was a knock at my front door, slow, almost scared. I opened it, annoyed, expecting a delivery or maybe a neighbor with a complaint. But what I saw made my stomach twist. It was her, Emily, my ex-wife. Hair matted, makeup smeared, body wrapped in a dirty, oversized hoodie that swallowed her frame. Her eyes, once full of fire and stubborn pride, were now hollow. She looked like a ghost of the woman who once promised me forever. "Dylan," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Please." I didn't know where else to go. I didn't move. I didn't say a word. My thoughts were sprinting back to the day she left me, back when she packed her bags without warning and walked out the door. No explanations, no closure, just a smug smile and a mumbled, "I found someone who understands me." I remember how her perfume lingered in our hallway for weeks after she was gone. I remember deleting our wedding photos one by one. I remember the silence. And now she was back? "Can I come in?" she asked. Part of me wanted to slam the door shut. But another part, some strange, cold part, was curious. So I stepped aside. She stumbled past me, clutching a small torn bag, and sank into the couch like a collapsing puppet. The air around her was thick with regret. But I didn't ask anything. Not yet. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't rage. It's patience. And Emily had just walked right into it. I watched her sit there, curled into herself like a scared child. My ex-wife, the same woman who used to laugh at my job, roll her eyes at my dreams, and vanish without even a goodbye, was now sobbing quietly into her sleeves on my couch. I didn't say much. I made tea, not out of kindness, but control. Let her stew. Let her wonder why I was being calm. When I returned, she looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. Still, I said nothing. Just placed the mug in front of her and sat down across the room. The silence pressed in, and then as she started talking, "It wasn't supposed to be like this," she said, voice trembling. "I thought he was different. I thought I was trading up. Dylan, I swear, I thought I knew what I was doing." I raised an eyebrow, but stayed silent. She kept going. "He had money, charm, confidence. Everything you didn't. At least, that's what I told myself. He promised me a life I'd only dreamed of. But the moment we crossed the border, everything changed." She stopped and looked at me, maybe expecting sympathy. She got none. "He made me feel special for a while. Then I was just a possession. Something to show off. Something to control." I didn't flinch. I wanted to say, "You made your choice, Em." But I let her keep unraveling. I tried to leave, more than once. But every time, there was a new threat, a new way to trap me. She paused again. Then came the part that almost made me blink. "I'm wanted now. I didn't do anything directly, I swear, nothing violent. But I was around things. I saw things. And when I finally ran, I knew they'd come after me. And so would the law." I stared at her. This wasn't the woman I'd married. And yet, somewhere deep down, buried under layers of regret, I could still see traces of her. But that didn't mean I'd forgotten. And I definitely hadn't forgiven. "You can stay the night," I finally said. "You look like you haven't slept in days." She nodded with shaky relief. But in my mind, a very different plan had already begun. She didn't even question it when I pointed toward the guest room. But she walked straight into the master bedroom instead, our old room. I didn't stop her. Let her think this was mercy. Let her wrap herself in the sheets she once abandoned, pretending nothing had changed. Let her believe, even for a moment, that she was safe here. The door clicked shut behind her, and I sat alone in the dark living room, listening to the faint creaks of the house as the weight of her presence settled like dust on everything I'd rebuilt. I should have thrown her out, but part of me needed answers. Not to forgive, but to understand how someone could fall so far, so fast. I thought back to the woman I married. Emily used to be clever, driven. She had ambition that could burn through steel. But it was never enough for her. I was never enough. She always craved more attention, more danger, more thrill. And when someone offered her all of that in a shiny, fast-talking package, she bolted. I walked down the hall and stood outside the bedroom door. For a second, I thought I heard her crying again. Or maybe I imagined it. My hand hovered over the doorknob, then dropped. No, let her cry. She earned every tear. I went back to the living room, sat on the edge of the couch, and pulled out my phone. I didn't call the cops yet. First, I needed to know everything. What she'd done, who was after her, and whether she was telling me the truth or just trying to use me one last time. Tomorrow she'd talk. and then I'd decide if she deserved a bed or a cell. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. Not that I'd slept much. The bedroom door was still closed, and the house was eerily quiet. I brewed coffee, more for myself than her, and waited. I wanted her to come out on her own. No pressure, no urgency. Let guilt and exhaustion do the work. Around 8 a.m., she emerged, still wearing the same hoodie, her face puffy and pale. She sat down across from me at the kitchen table like a guilty teenager waiting to be scolded. "Thanks," she mumbled, grabbing the cup I slid across the table. I watched her sip. "So," I said calmly, "how did we get here, Emily?" She stared into the mug for a long time. "It started small," she whispered. "At first, I was just the girlfriend. Parties, clubs, private jets. I thought I was winning. Then I started running errands, picking up bags I didn't pack, signing papers I didn't read." Her eyes flicked up to mine. I didn't realize what I'd gotten involved in until it was too late. I kept my face neutral. "That's when you thought about me?" I asked. She flinched. "I thought about you a lot, actually. Especially when things got bad." I leaned back. "You thought about me after you burned our life to the ground?" "I made mistakes," she said quickly, her voice sharp. "I know that now." "No, Emily. You made decisions, and now they've caught up to you." Her eyes welled up, but I wasn't moved. She was spinning a story, but parts weren't lining up. Timelines shifted. Names were vague. She kept saying she didn't know or wasn't involved. She wasn't telling me everything, but that was fine. The more she talked, the deeper she buried herself. And I was taking notes, because when I made the call, I wanted to make sure they had all the details. The conversation dragged into the afternoon. She started revealing more. Nothing that shocked me, but enough to paint a clear picture. She had run with a dangerous crowd. Not just one man. There were others. Parties that ended with people missing, phone calls that stopped mid-sentence, and rules she didn't dare break. She was more involved than she wanted to admit, and maybe even more than she realized. But what caught me off guard was the moment she stopped talking and asked something completely out of place. "Dylan, do you still love me?" I blinked, and then I laughed. Not cruelly, just honestly. It came out like a breath I'd been holding for too long. "Emily," I said slowly, "you're sitting in the ruins of what you destroyed with your own hands, and you're asking if I still love you?" She looked away, biting her lip. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "That doesn't change anything." "I didn't know he'd be like that," she muttered. "I thought I was chasing freedom. Instead, I walked into a cage." "No, Em," I said softly. "You ran from love into a fantasy, and now you're shocked it turned into a nightmare." She started crying again, but I wasn't reaching for tissues. I wasn't holding her hand. I let the silence speak for me. She stood and walked out to the back porch. I could see her through the window, just a frail silhouette under a gray sky. She was unraveling, bit by bit, but my mind was already made up. I picked up the phone and quietly dialed. "Yeah," I said. "I need to report someone. She's here. Her name is Emily Vargas, and she has a story you'll want to hear." By evening, she looked calmer, like just being out of the storm had tricked her into thinking she'd escaped it. She asked if she could stay one more night. Said she hadn't slept properly in weeks. I gave her a faint nod. "Of course," I said. "You're safe now." It wasn't a lie. She was safer than she'd been in months, at least from the people chasing her, but not from the consequences. After dinner, which she barely touched, she disappeared into the bedroom again. I stood in the hallway for a moment, listening to the sound of the old wooden door closing behind her. I didn't follow. Instead, I sat on the couch with the house lights off, my phone face down on the coffee table. I had already made the call. They knew who she was, where she was. I didn't give them my name. I didn't need the attention. I just wanted the last piece of this to be clean. I thought I'd feel satisfaction, but I didn't. Not yet. Around midnight, I checked on her. The door was cracked open slightly. She was fast asleep, curled in the same bed she once shared with me. The bed she used to keep secrets in, too. Her face was finally soft, peaceful even, and that made it worse. Because I remembered that face. I remembered kissing her forehead. I remembered watching her sleep, back when I still believed love could fix people. But some people don't want to be fixed. Some people want the fire, even if it burns everything. I closed the door gently. The sound of sirens echoed faintly in the distance. She'd wake up to something she never expected. And this time, she couldn't run. The knock came at 4:12 a.m. Not loud, just firm, professional, the kind that said, "This is routine for us, but it won't be for you." I opened the door without hesitation. 2 officers stood there. No sirens, no drama, just quiet precision. I nodded, stepped aside, and pointed down the hallway. She's in the master bedroom. Doors unlocked. They didn't ask questions, just moved in like a silent storm. I didn't follow. I didn't need to see it. But I heard it. The fumbling, the confusion, the sharp voice of the female officer saying, "Emily Vargas, you're under arrest. Please stand up." Then came her voice, small, panicked, groggy. "Wait, what? Dylan? Dylan." I stayed on the couch, hands clasped, heart still. No triumph. No anger. Just finality. Seconds later, footsteps. She was between them, arms restrained but not violently. No force. Just reality catching up to her. And then, for a moment, our eyes met. She wasn't crying. Not yet. She just stared at me, wide-eyed, betrayed, broken. "Why?" she whispered. I didn't answer. What was there to say? She knew why. She was escorted out without a scene. No neighbors peeked through windows. No flashing lights. Just the sound of a door closing and the low hum of a car pulling away. And then silence. For the first time in a year, my house felt truly empty. But not in a sad way. In a clean way. Like something toxic had finally been removed. After they took her, I just sat there. The sun hadn't risen yet, but I could see the faint blue of morning beginning to creep in through the curtains. Her torn canvas bag was still sitting near the door. Her coffee mug, half full and cold, rested quietly on the table. A pair of cheap sunglasses sat upside down on the couch cushion. I didn't touch any of it. Not out of sentiment. Out of closure. Everything she brought into my house that night was a symbol of her fall. I wanted it to sit there for a while, like proof that I didn't imagine the whole thing. That she really came back. That she really begged. That she really left in cuffs. Her scent lingered faintly in the hallway. Not perfume, just exhaustion. Sadness. Her skin carried the smell of panic, cheap motels, and broken dreams. I made another cup of coffee, this time for me alone. By 7 a.m., I had already cleaned the kitchen, aired out the bedroom, and taken the trash out, including the bag she brought. I didn't check what was inside. I didn't care. This house was mine again. Not just physically, but emotionally. And the space she used to take up? That was gone now, too. All that remained was the question I'd asked myself for a year straight. What kind of person leaves everything behind for a fantasy? And now I had my answer. A person who thinks they'll never pay for what they do. A week passed. Life went on. The world didn't stop spinning just because she was gone again. I went to work, paid bills, mowed the lawn. Everything felt sharper, like someone had finally removed the static from my life. Then one morning, while flipping through the local paper at my favorite diner, I saw her name. Local woman arrested in ongoing investigation tied to interstate operations. No photos. Just a small column buried between the classifieds and an ad for lawnmowers. That was all that was left of her, a name. A line of print. No mention of who she used to be. No mention of our wedding. No hint of the fire she once carried in her smile. I sipped my coffee and reread the paragraph. And I felt nothing. No joy. No regret. Just peace. She'd made her choices. And even though it had taken a long, winding road to get there, consequences had finally caught up. I don't know what sentence she'll get. Maybe a year. Maybe 10. But the truth is, her real prison started long before the arrest. It started the moment she looked at love like it was a stepping stone. A thing to use, then leave. And now? Now the fantasy was gone. All that remained was reality. It came 3 weeks later. A plain white envelope. No return address. Just my name scrawled in handwriting I'd memorized years ago. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. Whatever she had to say, apologies, excuses, one last plea, it no longer mattered. The version of Emily I once loved was gone long before she walked back into my house. And the woman who replaced her had made 1,000 small decisions that led to one very big fall. Keeping the letter sealed was my final boundary. My way of saying, this story is over. I tossed it into the drawer where I kept other things I'd outgrown. Old keys, expired warranties, a photo from a vacation we took when I still believed in forever. Sometimes, closure isn't about confrontation. Sometimes, it's just about being the one who walked away clean. And if you're wondering whether I ever missed her, no. What I missed was the idea of her. The version I built in my head when I believed love alone was enough to hold someone together. But now I know better. You can't save someone who's determined to sink. And sometimes, the kindest thing you can do is let them drown. Love shouldn't be blind, it should be wise. When someone shows you who they truly are, believe them. And when they come crawling back, broken by their own choices. You don't owe them rescue. You owe yourself peace. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new episode. Your support means the world and keeps these stories coming.